A few years ago, I completely embarrassed myself on national TV, and I couldn't be more proud of myself. So, for all of you guys that like those cooking shows like Chopped, a few years ago, I was on one of those shows competing as a chef. It wasn't Chopped, but it was very similar to Chopped, right? Where you're competing and, every round someone goes home. And so it was hosted by Richard Blais, the winner of Top Chef All Stars. And essentially, what happened was that in one of the rounds, when the producers are counting down the time, they're counting down like 10, 9, 8, right? And the pressure, sweat dripping down your head, you're trying to plate your dish. Um, in that moment when they were counting down, the guy next to me, he was boiling some eggs, right? And so I hear him like frantically, like, oh, I can't find my tongs. I can't find my tongs. And while I'm plating and time is winding down, I just, grabbed my tongs and I handed it to him. Right. Now, at the time, I didn't know how television production worked. Right. I mean, I've watched plenty of shows. I've watched Chopped. I've watched all these cooking shows. But in the moment where the lights are shining bright on you, like you forget that, people at home, they want to root for the hero. They want to root for the nice guy. Like people don't really root for the villain. Like you show up and you watch a show to root against the villain, right? You want to see them win. And so when we got to the judging part, right? The judges tasted my food, and Richard Blais, who was the host of the show, but obviously as the host, you have commentary. He looks at me and he goes, in all of my years, now mind you, this is someone who competed on Top Chef, right, and was a finalist, lost, then came back to Top Chef All Stars and won. And by the way, that season that he lost, we all thought he should have won, right? He's an amazing, amazing chef and a great guy. But he looks at me and he says, you know what, Chef Jose, in all of my years of cooking competitions, I've never seen that level of sportsmanship where the time is running down and you still had the presence of mind to help out a competitor. What were you thinking? Now, again, I didn't know how television production worked back then because he actually handed me an opportunity to be the hero. He actually handed me an opportunity to be the person that everyone at home watching could root for, right? And so the right answer would have been, the hero answer would have been something to the effect of, well, in the restaurant business, it's teamwork, it's a brotherhood, and in that moment, all I heard was man down, and I was just thinking about helping somebody out. And that's actually true. Like that is actually true. Like that's where my instinct was. But when he asked me that question, rather than giving this rehearsed, produced answer that didn't come to me, what came to me was what felt right in the moment. And instead I said, well, I believe that I only compete against myself. Right. And what's funny is like, the judges like laugh, but I can see it in their eyes. It was almost like they were rooting for me, but I can see it in their eyes like I let them down. Like even if they wanted to move me on and advance and make me the winner, even if my food was better than everybody else, and I believe that it was, it's like they couldn't, right? Because no one roots for the villain, right? You root for the hero. And so even though it wasn't my goal, if you understand television, I kind of painted myself as the villain because I came off as arrogant. Now, the truth is that for a long time, I kind of beat myself up about that, right? I felt as though I let my insecurity of the moment, the pressure of the moment, the bright lights, get to me. And instead of, being humble, instead I gave an answer that was rooted in arrogance. And it was my way of covering up for my insecurity. And I felt like that for a while, right? But what I came to realize is that that really wasn't arrogance, it was identity, right? The Apostle Paul talks about running your own race, right? And a lot of times we get caught up, we get depressed, despondent, we just beat ourselves up because we compare ourselves to other people. We look at our chapter 1 and we compare it to somebody's chapter 20. We see someone's, at the finish line and we compare ourselves to the person at the finish line when we're still at the start line. And when you understand the calling that God has on your life, when you understand what the Apostle Paul is saying when he says, run the race that's set before you, it means that God already has a calling for your life. He already has a purpose. He already has a race that nobody can run against you. It's you versus you. And so what for many years I thought was arrogance, and maybe a part of it was because I was younger back then, and partly insecure. Like there was a lot of pressure. That being said, I also understood something, right? That win or lose, no matter what the judges say, bro, no one can compete against me. Okay. God is like my cooking skills are from the grace of God. Like, yes, my mom taught me how to cook, but it's a gift from God. And once you stop comparing yourself to other people, even if you're doing the exact same thing, once you start comparing yourself, once you stop comparing yourself against other people, that's when you become free. That's when you become liberated, right? That's why the Bible says, when you know the truth, it makes you free. Because until you know what's true, until you know how God designed you, until you understand your purpose, your calling in life, a lot of us are in this prison of self-judgment, of comparison, of just our own negative thoughts, which are fueled by Satan and they don't serve you. And so I'm making this video hoping that this encourages someone to understand, bro, you're not competing with anyone else. You're competing against your own potential. You're competing against who you were yesterday. You're competing against the person who wasn't following Christ, who's now trying to steward their life and follow Christ. Okay. So again, I hope this encourages you. Remember, you're only competing against yourself. And once you realize that you were wonderfully made by God with a purpose and a calling for your life, then you can truly be free. Peace.